Hey everybody, it is Dak here from the Ed Boys, and welcome to my OSRS Zalcano guide. Zalcano is a skilling boss that resides in the elven city of Privdinas. Players will use a combination of mining, smithing, and runecrafting to kill Zalcano. Zalcano could be fought in a solo or in large groups, but generally groups of 4 tend to be the sweet spot for speed of kills and solid loot from this skilling boss. In this guide, we'll go over the requirements and recommendations for Zalcano, then what gear that you should bring with you and what your inventory should look like. Afterwards, we'll go over the mechanics of Zalcano and a typical trip with some tips and tricks for what to look out for when you're fighting the skilling boss. Finally, we'll discuss the general loot and XP that you can expect from fighting Zalcano. For your requirements and recommendations, access to the Elven City does require completion of the Song of the Elves quest, which requires a lot of level 70s including agility, construction, farming, herb lore, hunter, woodcutting, and mining and smithing, which are also labeled as a requirement for Zalcano himself. Your runecrafting level can make a difference on your pace of kill, since the damage from thrown tephra is based off of your smithing and your runecrafting level. Even though there aren't any runecrafting requirements to get Zalcano done, the higher the runecrafting you have going in, the better off you're going to be. This being said, if you have a low runecrafting level, you're not really going to have a problem at Zalcano necessarily. I highly suggest having a dragon or even a crystal pickaxe for this grind, though it is not required, it is definitely recommended. Overall, once you have Song of the Elves completed though, there's really not that many other requirements for some Zalcano action, so we can move on to the gear setup. Your gear is not very complicated, a little bit more complicated than Winter Todd, the other skilling boss, but really not as much as a combat boss compared to skilling. Having a good strength and defense bonus will not be the focus when fighting this boss, rather gear that helps with your run energy, your health regen, and maybe even prayer in some cases. In your head slot, you should wear the Graceful Hood. Overall, there is a lot of running, so weight reduction is going to be very helpful, but Graceful pieces also give an effect where they restore your run energy a little bit faster. After that, the Prospector Helmet's not a bad option for a little bit of bonus mining XP, but it is a very minimal bonus in the long run. In your cape slot, the Mining Cape is a very solid option. It has a passive perk, which gives you a 5% chance to mine double ores up to adamant, and this does include tephra. After that, the Hit Point Skill Cape is a great option. As a passive effect, it doubles your natural healing rate, so this would mean less food needed during the kill. It is worth noting that if you have a max cape, it counts as both the mining and the HP cape, so you might as well bring that with you. If you don't have any of these skill cape options, then the Graceful Cape is a good choice for that weight reduction and the run restore. For the next slot, there's not that many helpful options. The only thing you can really add here is a prayer bonus. The only time that you're going to be using prayer generally is preserve to keep your dragon or your crystal pickaxe spec as long as possible. It's not a terrible strategy, but it really isn't needed for such a small boost. If you are looking to get that prayer bonus though, the best in slot for the neck would be the dragon bone necklace, followed by any god stole, and then the unholy and the holy symbols are tied for third. I don't really use my prayer while I'm grinding this, so I usually just go for nothing in the slot for a little bit less weight. The ammo slot is the same as the neck, only prayer bonus options and even less of them here. The Rada's Blessing 4 gives a +2 prayer bonus, and every other blessing is a +1 bonus, with the Peaceful Blessing generally being the cheapest one to buy. Again, an empty slot does mean less weight, but blessings are very light to be fair, so it doesn't really hurt to put one on. For your weapon, you will need a pickaxe, the best one that you can wield and afford. The crystal pickaxe is very worth using here, especially since it takes crystal shards to charge it, so the grind is basically paying for itself in that way. The dragon pick is still a great option, and if you're stuck to a rune pick for whatever reason, it is going to get the job done. The shield slot is pretty worthless. A god book only weighs 1 kilogram, and it gives +5 prayer, so it's not a bad option, but generally, no shield is needed. For the chest slot, Varrock Armor will give you a chance at mining double ore, and it does stack with the Mining Cape. I can't quite find a confirmation on this, but I think you need at least the Varrock Armor 3 or 4 to be able to mine double tephra. I don't know if it works with 1 and 2. I think it's supposed to be about the same level as Addy ore, since they both basically require level 70. I could be wrong on that. If somebody has better information on that, let me know. But as far as I know, I believe you need Varrock Armor 3 or 4 for the double ore effect on tephra. Outside of the Varrock Armor, there is the Graceful Top, which is the way to go for weight reduction, and the Prospector Top is not a bad backup for a small amount of bonus XP. Your leg slot is very similar to the head slot. Graceful is your way to go, with Prospector being a backup option. On your hands, a regen bracelet can be very helpful. It doubles your HP rate just like the Hit Points Cape, and it also stacks with the Hit Points Cape, so having both would mean that you're healing 4 HP per minute rather than the original 1. After that, we go back to that Graceful option. The boot slot is pretty simple. The Graceful boots are very good, but there's also Boots of Lightness as an alternative. Overall, I imagine that by the time you've done Song of the Elves, you generally have your full Graceful, so usually it shouldn't be a problem having to replace those. Finally, in the ring slot, if you're using a crystal pickaxe, then you want to wear an elven signet to lessen the amount of charges that you use from the pick. Outside of that, you only have prayer options like Ring of the Gods or Ring of Suffering, but those are very expensive for just a minor boost, so the ring is not that important outside of the Elven Signet. Let's go ahead and move on to the inventory. The inventory setup is pretty simple. You're going to need a few stamina potions, somewhere from 2 to 4, depending on how much damage that you're taking. And for your food, something as simple as lobster can get the job done easily. If you find yourself not really locking in, maybe not paying as much attention, or maybe you're new to it in general and you're taking more damage for whatever reason, or just looking for longer trips even, Sarah Brews are definitely worth it in here because they heal a lot per inventory space, and you don't need restores since you're not using any combat stats that are getting drained. The bank is pretty close, so you can bank your teleport crystal to save yourself some inventory space, but one Invy spot, it really doesn't make that much of a difference either. Also, anybody who's deciding to use prayer, having like a good altar teleport, for instance, your house with a pool, or maybe an arty cloak, to go fill up your prayer and come back with the eternal crystal teleport. It's not a bad strategy, but it's really not that worth it overall. Like I said, the inventory is a pretty simple setup. If you still have any questions about the inventory or the gear setup, be sure to leave them in the comments section below so I can get back to you as soon as possible. As for the location of Zalcano's prison, here is a look at the map of Prif. You can see the crystal teleport is highlighted, and also you can see that Zalcano's lair and the bank are very nearby in the southeast section of the city. Let's go ahead and get into the mechanics of the fight. To be able to kill Zalcano, you first need to take down her shield or her armor, then you have to mine her to actually do some damage. To attack her shield, you will need some imbued Tephra. First, you need to mine some Tephra from one of the rocks around the room. 1 out of the 4 rocks in the room will be glowing, and that's the one that you should make sure to mine. You can mine any of the other rocks for Tephra, but you're not going to get nearly as much as you would from the glowing one. The location of the glowing rock does change occasionally, but we'll discuss when that happens in a minute. Once you've mined some Tephra, you need to refine it at the furnace in the eastern part of the room, and then once you've refined the Tephra, you can take it to the altar on the other side to imbue it. Imbued Tephra can be thrown at Zalcano to take down her shield. The amount of damage done with Imbued Tephra is based on your smithing and rune crafting levels, so the higher levels will help you out with loot in the long run. The shield has 300 health. Once it goes down, you can mine Zalcano with a pickaxe. Higher tier pickaxes do give a little bit of a bonus for damage, but it's not a ton. It does have more to do with your mining level than your pickaxe, but the difference in max hit from 70 to 99 mining is only 3, which again is not a ton. When her shield goes down and you begin to actually damage Zalcano, the shield will regenerate. She can stand back up in 12 to 16 seconds, or when the team deals 380 damage. This means that you have to take her down a minimum and hopefully a maximum of 3 times each fight, because you can't do any more than 380 damage per shield break. When she stands back up, her shield will go back to 300 health, and she's going to destroy all of the Tephra in your inventory, so you have to restart the process until you finally get her to 0 health. Now that you know how to kill Zalcano, let's talk about how to survive Zalcano. She has a few different attacks, which at first, when you're just listing them off, it sounds like a lot, but they're all pretty easy to deal with. First, we have the regular attack, which will hit everybody in the room with some unavoidable damage. This attack is very weak, so even though you can't avoid it, it's not that dangerous overall. Zalcano will sometimes stomp, causing boulders to drop from the ceiling, very similar to demonic gorillas. You have plenty of time to get out of the way of these, and they're even easier to see if you use the Zalcano Runelight plugin. These boulders hit super hard, 40 to 50 damage if you don't get out of the way, so make sure to be careful. Zalcano can launch a red attack at the glowing rock in the room, which is going to damage anybody who's standing near the rock, and it does change which rock is glowing. This is the only way that the glowing rock changes locations, so be aware that it's not just going to change on you randomly unless you see Zalcano attacking the rock. Obviously, this attack is only a big deal when you're mining some Tephra, but it can hit fairly hard. Occasionally, Zalcano will summon some spots in the ground. Mostly, they'll be orange spots that do damage to you and drain your run energy if you're standing on them, but a few of the spots will be blue. These spots increase the amount of damage that you do with your imbued Tephra as long as you are standing on them. It's very helpful to throw most of your Tephra from one of these spots, but they don't always show up in a timely manner. You don't want to do 0 damage to the shield because you just sat there waiting for blue spots, and they never came around while the rest of the team knocked out her shield. Zalcano will summon a golem occasionally, which will walk from the outer part of the room towards her. If that golem reaches Zalcano, it is going to heal her shield. The golem has 14 health and can be killed only with imbued Tephra, and it's going to drop a bunch of imbued Tephra for whoever killed it. Though I admit sometimes it does seem to drop this Tephra kind of randomly. It is supposed to be whoever does the most damage. I have not found that to be 100% accurate. This extra pile of Tephra can make a pretty big difference on who gets the MVP that kill if the timing of the blue spots works out for them. Whenever Zalcano's armor goes down and all of the players are mining her to take down her health, if you were to stand under Zalcano, you're going to take some consistent damage. Also, when Zalcano stands back up, she's going to damage anybody standing too close to her, so it is important to walk away a little bit as she's standing back up. Don't forget she also destroys all of your Tephra in your inventory when she stands up, so having extra Tephra is not helpful at all. If you have any more questions about Zalcano's exact mechanics, let me know in the comments section below. But for now, let's go over a full-length kill. If you're using the dragon or the crystal pickaxe, it can be helpful to use preserve and keep the boost a little bit longer. Overall, I don't really suggest it unless you have good prayer boost and a solid house or a good prayer altar to teleport to. It ends up wasting a little more time than I feel like it saves. As the kill starts, apparently the northeast corner is most likely to be the spot of the glowing rock, but overall it is random. Any of the 4 rocks could be the glowing rock. The amount of Tephra that you need to mine right away does depend on how many people you have in the fight. Zalcano's health does not scale. It's always going to be 300 health on the shield. The average Tephra damage is supposed to be about 10 or 15 if you're standing on a blue spot, but this also depends on your smithing and your rune crafting levels. With a team of 4, you could each mine somewhere between 6 and 10 Tephra, and as long as you're focused on throwing in the blue spots, you really should be fine. This ratio is something that you're going to get a little more used to pretty quickly. With less players in the fight, you're each going to need more Tephra. With a packed world, you really only need to mine a couple. Take your Tephra to the furnace and eventually the altar. If Zalcano is to summon some spots on the ground while you're at the furnace and you're not quite done refining all of your Tephra, you could try and run to the altar a little bit early just to manage 1 or 2 imbued Tephra really quick and then get a few shots off on a blue spot. Then when the spot goes away, you want to make sure to run back to the furnace, finish up the rest of your Tephra while there's no blue spots on the ground. Overall, clearly your goal is to make most of your throws from a blue spot if you can. That doesn't necessarily make normal throws worthless by any means. It's only so much better to throw from a blue spot. So when you finish imbuing all of your Tephra and you're ready to throw it, and there isn't a blue spot, you kind of have to make a judgment call on how many throws you should save for the potential blue spot. This call depends on how many Tephra you've got and how much health is left on the shield, and then I guess how many other people are attacking the shield. Preferably, her shield goes down right as you're throwing your last Tephra. That way you didn't waste any time making extra, but you also likely didn't run out before she summoned some blue spots for you to throw and waste any of those throws too. If she still has a lot of shield health and you've got more than 4 Tephra, I would throw a few of them rather than waiting for the blue spot. As soon as a blue spot shows up, most players are going to go hard, and you might only get 3 or 4 throws from the spot before the shield goes down. So you don't want to save like 8 Tephra for the blue spot, then have 4 left over for her to destroy when she stands up after mining her. As the shield approaches 0, it is smart to get closer to her so you can start mining right away as she drops rather than running to her during her mining time. But overall, when you knock down her shield, that's really about all the strategy. You just start mining right away. After 380 damage has been done to her, she'll stand up automatically, which means an ideal kill, she's going to stand up at 620 health and at 240 health. Be sure to step back a little bit so you don't take any damage and locate that glowing rock. Start mining and repeat the process until she dies. If you see a golem and you have some imbued Tephra, I do suggest killing it as soon as possible. If you have a very large team, it doesn't really matter much overall, but generally a team of 4 is the way to go, and with a team of 4, you definitely want to be killing the golem. Getting the Tephra drop can be very helpful for that extra damage if her shield is full, and then if that shield is almost dead, and you really weren't going to get that many extra throws with the Tephra, it's still a big deal to kill the golem, because you don't want it to make it all the way to the shield and heal it 50 points. If you're looking for more examples and tips on Zalcano kills, I'll be making an hour of Zalcano video that'll be linked in the description when it comes out. But if you have any general questions right now, let me know in the comments section below. Now let's get into the loot section of the guide, which I will start with the XP rather than the GP. Zalcano is a better money-making method than it is a training method, but overall, you do make some gains while you're here. With a good team and you knowing what you're doing, generally your XP rates are going to be 13 to 14k mining XP an hour, 2 to 3k smithing, and 1 to 2k runecrafting XP each hour. It's pretty weak, and like I said, Zalcano is supposed to be a moneymaker rather than a fast training method. I don't think that a small buff in XP would hurt here, though. I'm not gonna lie, it'd be nice if it gave a little bit more, but at least it gives any XP while making decent cash. Zalcano has a solid drop table, which would supply Iron Men with a lot of ores and bars for more smithing XP, to be fair. Those drops plus the crystal shards can add up to some solid profit. For generally being a low effort boss, it is a good moneymaker. To receive a drop from Zalcano, you must do at least 30 damage to her shield and 30 damage to her health throughout the fight. This is not very difficult, but it doesn't allow for people to leech the fight at all. You can't just go in there and stand around and get any loot. If you want to be eligible for uniques or a pet, then these requirements are raised to 50 damage on each the shield and her health, which again, not very difficult unless maybe there's a ton of people in the fight at a time and it goes too quickly for you. You can get 1 to 3 crystal shards from Zalcano. If you do enough damage for the drop, but not enough damage to get a unique or a pet, you will get 1 shard. If you do enough damage for the unique and pet chances, you get 2 crystal shards, and if you're the MVP of the kill, you'll get 3 crystal shards, and Zalcano will drop some ashes. The MVP receives 10% more loot on a regular drop, and they have better chances to receive the unique drops if the team gets one. I should mention too that while mining Tephra, you have a 1 in 127 chance to get a crystal shard, which is a little bit of a bonus. Not a lot, but it is bonus shards. Let's move on to those unique drops. First of all, you have the Crystal Tool Seed, which can be used to make a Crystal Pickaxe, a Crystal Axe, or a Crystal Harpoon from their Dragon counterpart. 1 Crystal Tool Seed can be dropped per kill, not per player, but for the whole team, similar to uniques from the Theater of Blood in that way. A Crystal Tool Seed is a 1 in 200 chance for a team on each kill. The more damage that you do to Zalcano on her shield, the better chance you have to get the unique, but anybody on the team can get it as the drop if she rolls the seed. She also drops an Uncut Onyx, which shares the same table and mechanic as the Crystal Tool Seed. This Onyx is very rare, landing at a 1 in 8,000 rate. The Zalcano Shard is a unique that multiple players can receive on each kill. The drop rate ranges from a 1 in 750 to a 1 in 1500 drop, depending on how much damage you do. This shard is just a cosmetic add-on, and it's pretty cheap, so it's not really sought out too much, rather than really just some collection log gains. Finally, we have the Zalcano Pet. The pet is dropped at a 1 in 2250 rate, and just like the shard, it can be received by multiple players in a single kill. It's not a shared drop like the Tool Seed. The Crystal Tool Seed is the one expensive drop that you can land for some nice bonus profit. The Onyx isn't too bad, but it's so rare that it doesn't add that much money per hour unless you're getting very lucky. Outside of those drops, somewhere in the 800k to a mil per hour range is pretty reasonable for loot, reaching out to more like 1.5 mil an hour if you have a really solid group of 4, and you're managing to get a good amount of MVPs too. When you add on the occasional Tool Seed, this does make for a pretty solid moneymaker for, again, pretty low effort and being a skilling boss, not a PVM boss, so not being very difficult to do overall. I believe that is everything that I wanted to talk about when it comes to Zalcano, everyone. If you still have any questions or some tips of your own, be sure to leave those in the comments section below, and I can get back to you as soon as possible. If you have been enjoying the videos or you're just getting some useful information out of them, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. I do stream on Twitch, so if you're looking for more content, come check me out over there. The link should be on the screen and in the description. I'm also on Twitter, and I do have a Discord, which the links are both in the description. Thank you very much for watching my Zalcano guide, everybody, and best of luck on your Zalcano grind.